So let's move on to our third and last section. Our third section will be covering the application process. So PP, can you start us off? You have a very interesting story with both parents going to MIT. So I heard that they started thinking about preparing for your college applications quite early. Can you tell us when it was and how were they able to do it?
I think I was introduced to that realm of college applications when I was in second grade or third grade. I would say that for the most part I did not have a clue or they did not have a clue too. So up until probably 11th grade I didn't know what I had to do, the research, the extracurriculars, what the universities are looking for. My time frame's a bit messed up. So and then I had to cram a lot of my activities, my accomplishments, my awards into the space of 1.5 years. And had I been able to be able to turn back time, I would have spread my efforts more over the 4 years of high school. And I think that it's so important for the younger kids to learn about the college application process since middle school, so that they do not have to rush when they're in 10th or 11th grade, and they could just take a more manageable approach throughout high school.
P. Fresh, how about you? What are some tips for the audience on how to secure great recommendations? Because I think you all also received really great recommendations from your teachers.
Yeah, so recommendation letters are quite important. I think they're a really central part of the application process. So what I think you need to do is to build really authentic and special relationships with your teachers. And this goes more than just the teachers saying that you're a genius, you're incredible at school. It's more so the other side of that as well, such as your character, how you behave, your work ethic, and your perspectives on the world. Because teachers have been teaching for a long time. They've seen so many students, pass through their classrooms. And if they think that you're that one student who will make a change in the world, they see something in you that's special, and they're able to advocate for you in that way, and they're able to tell the colleges about that, that's a really great way to prove to the colleges that you are special in an academic context. Because remember that university is a place where you go to learn, and teachers are the ones who see you learn. So they know you as a learner. So I think it's really important that they can say what makes you different. And I know my teachers have written borderline humorous things in my letter of recommendation, where they've talked about how I'm a class clown in the class and the things that I contribute outside of just answering the right questions and doing well on exams. So I think that's a really vital part of you, is building those relationships with teachers so that they can vouch for you in a way that is really special and unique to your specific relationship.
How about on college essays? Do you have any advice for college essays?
A lot, yes. So college essays are, of course, one of the most important things in the application process. And there are so many tips that I don't think I could fit into just a few minutes. But I think a very big thing to do in your college essay is really to do that almost philosophical kind of reflection on yourself about, what makes me me, what makes me different, what allows me to stand out, and just think on a very literal level, what makes me different. That could be your identity, your background, your experiences, your passion, vision, ideas. These are all things that characterize you as a person, as a student, as a citizen. These are things that you need to reflect on and draw upon to put into your essay. And telling it in a refreshing way, in a way where the admissions officers can learn about you and learn more about themselves as well, about the world and how it works. And I think I definitely am very proud of what I've done in my essays, because I think that I've captured some of those perspectives that I have that I'd like to share with other people and convince them that that is something worth pursuing and worth having in their college on campus. So I think that's one of the main takeaways I would give for writing the college essays.
So like P. Fresh said, getting into college is not a formulated checklist. It's more about character. P. Schwinn, you have a very interesting story for your Common App that really reflected your character. So can you please share with us your approach to the essay?
Oh, okay. So, all right. So my Common App was actually about my view on religion, which is actually a very personal view, how I started to develop a more open mind about it, more or less. And kind of combining that with the environment that I grew up in, which is like smack in the middle of a red light district here in Bangkok, right? And so kind of reconciling those two parts of my background and like seeing how religion fits in and all that stuff. So that is actually in complete contrast to the other parts of my application, which were like STEM focused and maybe music focused in some areas. So I guess, yeah, it adds a really kind of new dimension to the profile, and yeah, that's kind of how you want to be creating your profile, really, is to have really multiple dimensions that are very interesting, some which are more impressive than others, but in general you want to have like a really good base and then a few spikes here and there. Yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
Pete Titan, you also have very impressive world-class research. Did you have any recommendations from outside to back that up for you?
Yes, I had my own professor write me a recommendation letter. He showed it to me too. He was really nice, and he wrote nice things about me. He knew exactly how hard I worked because I worked right beside him. He saw me come to Rayong every week, worked for at least 8 hours every day, had to walk 2 kilometers just to get to the lab every day, 5 days a week. And I think the important part is to make sure that your personality, your character is known to those who write your recommendation letter. I kind of made a mistake in selecting one of my teachers to write my recommendation letter. One of the teachers was fine. The other one did not know anything about what I did outside of class. And given I was not really in class a lot in my 11th and 12th grade, I don't think he was able to express who I was as a person in class and what type of student I am, what type of person I am. So I think it's definitely important to make sure that your teachers know what's going on with your life and make sure to be a good student.
Pisai, your application process was more unique than other people in that you had to submit a portfolio to your art schools, right? Can you explain a bit about that process?
If you're applying into like an art school or like an art related major, they require you to send a portfolio. Most schools use this website called Slideroom. So yeah, the university will give you that link in their university website, so you can just go directly there and they'll tell you that each university is different, like how they want you to follow through Slideroom. If you're going in that path, the portfolio is really important, and whether you're like going into like performance art, digital art, like any kind of art, I think it's still good to have like a distribution and a variety of medias and concepts that you take. Not just like, oh, I'm gonna post all my beautiful, beautiful pictures. No, it's about like you as a person stepping a foot inside of every single field that you can possibly go into. Like you could do a work relating to language and science or history, like yeah. So not just about like what you find beautiful or interesting to you, but your mind can be open to.
I wanted to mention that the arts portfolio option is not only limited to art-specific majors or potential art students, because me, Titan and Shrin, we did a music portfolio as well, and you did.
I did an origami.
You did an origami portfolio. So I think even though you're not majoring in art, even though you might have these skills, things you do to enjoy yourself, and it can really be an asset in your application. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. I think that especially the art you do is particularly special. So for me, like doing origami was something that I didn't know a lot of people did, and for me it was a special part of my application because I also combined it with like computer science and engineering, right? So I really wanted to show that I appreciated this as an art form as well. And like Bom said, you really don't have to be an art major to support an art supplement. Sometimes it can be a really great way to show your diverse interests. And I actually really enjoyed doing the art portfolio because it asked a lot of questions like, what does your art form mean to you and stuff like that, which I thought was a really interesting dimension you can add to your application to show that, again, you're versatile and three-dimensional.
So P-Bom, can you tell us a little bit about how many colleges you applied to, and what do you think about how some international schools are limiting the number to only 10?
So I applied to around 15 to 17 colleges. I don't remember exactly how much, but I think the fact that schools are limiting the amount of colleges students can apply to is basically harming their own students, because there are other schools that allow more than a certain limited number. So the schools are basically killing their own students by limiting the amount of schools that students are able to apply to. And I don't think that's a good decision in any way, because they have nothing to lose by allowing more students to apply, I think.
In addition, a lot of you guys have expressed to me that you would have stressed less or stressed more on certain things. Looking back, what advice would you have to our audience on how you would have diverted your time differently? You can start pretty fresh.
Yeah, so time is such a hard thing to talk about because, people spend it differently. And I happen to have taken subjects where I felt like they were less memorization based and more kind of skill and like stuff that comes more naturally. So for me, I was able to spend less time on academics than a lot of my friends did who took stuff like history where you have to memorize loads of things. So it really depends on you. And there's no, I don't want to say like spend less on academics, spend more on academics. It really depends on you. But one thing that I would recommend is to always have a checkpoint each week. So every single week, just have like a short, like 10, 20-minute reflection and think about how your week has been. Have you not made much progress on your extracurriculars and writing those incredible essays? Because if that's the case, then for the next week, I need to spend more time on that. Or do you feel that I'm not quite happy with the score that I got on this exam because I didn't spend enough time studying. So the next week you'd want to improve on that. So I think naturally you have to be reflecting and perhaps reflecting with somebody else as well, somebody who has experience. It could be an older sibling, maybe your parents as well. And if your parents, encourage your children to tell you about their story and what they're up to, because these conversations really, really help you manage time in a way that is most beneficial for you. And talking to older people, they're so wise, and not everything they say is correct, but it's really worth listening to. And I enjoyed, talking to parents and stuff about how I should approach the application process, even though they didn't know so much about like applying to the US, but they knew a lot about like life in general. So it's nice to have those conversations.
So what I need to stress more on my application. Fresh mentioned a lot about how the application process is about representing who you are as a person and not just listing out your accomplishments. So one of the mistakes I made really in my early round was that in my Common App essay, which is the main essay you have to write in order to send to colleges, it has to be really personal, because it's called the personal essay for a reason, right? And so my mistake was basically listing out, the essay was more about listing out accomplishments than talking about how I grew, how I developed, and how I really, was personal with the project I was doing. And so if, in hindsight, if I had the ability to go back, I would incorporate, more of the personal aspects of my projects and really represent who I am in the essay as opposed to what I did and what I achieved. Yeah. So that was my main mistake. And yeah, that's about it.
How about you, Pisai?
In my Common App, like I wrote about, it's more like a story of like one day, like the exhibition day, and I let the university admissions people be able to go through my head, like my thought process and how I think as a person in a professional environment. I think if you're able to get them inside your head, no matter what state you're in, to let them see how you think, how like your work ethic is, I think that's really important, or how you discover new things, you learn new skills. Yeah. I think that if you manage to let them know, like what you said before, like that you're human and that you learn and that you're able to improve and progress, I think, about anything actually, I think that's really good.
There are two things I regret. Number one is not taking good care of my grades. In ninth grade, first semester, I had a GPA of around 3.3, and that was kind of hard to come back from. And Yeah, I think if I had spent more time with my GPA, it would have been better. And if I had paid more attention to what I was passionate about and found what I actually liked early on in like ninth grade, 10th grade, I would have done so many more impactful works for the society. And the last thing that I'm regretful about is not really enjoying the time I spent in high school. I spent a lot of my time away from school conducting research, not with my friends. And with the COVID situation coming in and taking away half a semester of time with my friends, I think it's regrettable that I didn't really spend that much time thinking that I will spend time with my friends in 12th grade when I have more time after college applications. And yeah, as a philosopher once said, you can only understand life looking backwards, but you can only live it forward. So live like it's important every day. And yeah, you will have no regrets.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just realized I didn't touch on the time management part. For time management, yeah, I did regret a lot of things, but for me, at the end of the day, it's about knowing that you've somehow, like, even if it's only a little bit, worked on what you're passionate about. Like, that could be a specific subject in school or like outside work. Yeah, I think just if you like keep that in mind, then you'll be happy.
Yeah, so I think mine is almost the same as Titan's actually. I think there's a saying that you can only pick 2 out of 3: academics, social life, and sleep, right? I picked sleep and academics, so my social life just tanked. So after spending so much time with my extracurriculars, my academics, leaving school, stuff like that, I didn't really get in touch with my friends, so we kind of all just lost touch. And after this COVID thing happened, like that lost touch is like now completely gone. Like we're just so social life is something that I think is quite important in high school. It's connections that go on and persist throughout life. And yeah, I kind of regret not putting more care into them.
I mean, like the other guys pretty much summed it up. So like, I think like my only take would be that it's okay to have fun. I mean, like every once in a while you can go out, party, drink. But like, it's like you don't need to think that like just because like I'm a nerd, I'm an academic, I can't do those things. It's like it's perfectly fine to do those things. High school is probably going to be the most fun time of your life until you get into college. I would say really cherish it. Don't be snaky. Don't overcompete, because like in the end, like those relationships are really toxic, and like looking back, you'll regret them. Just have fun with like the time and like the youth you have right now.
I think as much as you're a high schooler and a college applicant, you must be human too. So remember that aspect and have some fun.
Before we end our panel, for each of you guys, what achievement are you most proud of?
So I have 2 achievements. One is the typical sort of achievement, which was coming first place at the World Math Championships. That was my favorite achievement. And then the other one was more sort of personal. It's writing my Common App. It's still a piece of writing that I think really represents me at its best, and I still read through it like time to time, which sounds really sad because I've already submitted it. But yeah, I'm really proud of the Common App I wrote.
I'm probably most proud of the nanocatalyst research project I talked about earlier, because I spent a lot of time into doing that. I had to skip like around 200 classes, and I felt like I was able to only do that because I really liked what I was doing. So I guess that would be my proudest project.
Making that decision that I'm going into art and I'm not, I'm just staying in art. It's really difficult to decide. Okay, I'm gonna go to an art school. Yes, and being able to get in actually, So that having that reaching that realization that you're really really passionate about art and you want to have it as your career. I think for me, just reaching that point in my own mind, I think is an accomplishment.
For me, I think it's who I've become, because in 7th grade, I was still a pianist, and I didn't care about learning at all. I just wanted to play piano every day. And I was still in regular math. For those of you who go to RS, it's not really a fun time. And yeah, in just 5 years, I've become this science and computer science nerd and gone to UC Berkeley and realized my passions. I think that the most proud I am is probably of when I look back and see who I was and how much I have changed to become who I am today.
So mine is probably being able to write software that's deployed to production where people actually use it. Like it's kind of hard to come by really, where you write software that people actually use, like a lot of people actually use. And so like being able to make an impact on the community through, writing software and all that is, it's great.
I would say the part I'm most proud of was the fact that I got through it emotionally and mentally. It was a very draining process, and like I would say I was really proud of myself for coming out of it in one piece.
And now regarding our application process, our last section, do you have any questions regarding that or any other general questions that you would like to ask?
How much of a difference would you guys say a college interview makes in your application, in your chance of acceptance? Like, do you need to take it at all, or what?
I mean, if given the opportunity, you should take it. You don't say bad things to the interviewer. It won't make or break your application.
Unless it's a really, really bad interview, I don't think it hurts at all. Like, at all.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't actually get an interview, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Whether or not you get an interview has no bearing on whether or not you're going to get in or not, actually.
I think it kind of depends on the school a little bit, because when I went to my Yale interview, the interviewer said that the interview is the last step of the process, so they have already decided, a certain group of people to select from, and the interview is like the determining factor. So I think it really depends on different schools. But like for other schools, maybe like Stanford, like if you have an interview, then you have a lot of chance to get in already. But just make sure that you don't, do anything too bad to make a bad impression in that interview. So I think really researching the school is kind of important here.
Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity to add a bit of color, a bit of kind of extra dimension to your application as well. Because remember, they're only seeing text so far. They don't know the tone, your voice. They don't know, how you speak and how you look. So just going there to show that you're a positive person, you're someone who's mature, and you're someone who's friendly and sociable. I think those are things they really pick up on, because sometimes, people write really fascinating essays, but when you meet them, they're actually a little bit shy or nervous. I mean, it's normal to be nervous, but they see that you're actually not really like a functional human. So I think it's a good opportunity to show that you're not that. And a lot of, and with interviews, a good way to train for them, I think, is just to speak out loud to people about your ideas and your identity, and that can usually be a really good way forward.
Yeah, just don't just talk about what's already written in your application. Like Fresh said, also mention newer things that you can bring to the table.
I want to share an experience of the Yale interview. It's quite funny. So I flew to Chiang Mai to have the interview. The time was set at 12 at Starbucks Central Festival. I was there since 11, and I finished my lunch, went to Starbucks since 11:30, and I waited for 30 minutes. Still no one. I tried calling him, no response. Tried emailing him, no response. So I was freaking out whether I got the wrong place, what happened to my interviewer. And so after waiting for around 2 hours at Starbucks, almost missing my flight, he finally called me and said I had a dental appointment. And so the interview went on until like 4 p.m. And so I just think that sometimes it's okay to freak out, but stay calm and try not to rush too many things. And yeah, you'll be fine for any interviews. Be yourself and be confident.
That just goes on to show how like the interviewers value the interview actually. They don't really take too much consideration into it unless it's really, really something, something out of the blue.
I think it's definitely true that most interviews don't really matter that much, especially for alum interviews, but I know that some colleges actually do have like admission officers interview you. Last year, Brown had the option of recording a video instead of doing an in-person interview. So there are lots of options for you, alternatives, and sometimes I think going to an interview is just fun, so that you can just like talk to someone who knows about the college. You usually just go there and ask them questions about the college, rather than them like trying to get information out of you. You get more information out of these sessions to see whether those colleges actually fit you or not.
Show that you love the college. When you go there, tell them about, what you like about this college. Show them that you've done the research and that you're knowledgeable on the college. So before any college interview, just make sure you know that school well, so that you can present to them that this is my dream school. This is not just a school that was on my list of schools, right? That it's really special to you. So definitely try to do that.
Treat it like a date. Try to impress them by knowing a lot of things about them. And don't talk about other colleges in front of any other colleges, I guess. So just look at them as like a possible partner and try your best to attract them, and don't be obnoxious, that's all.
Also, when you view their LinkedIn profile, make sure it's anonymous.
Hey,
I totally forgot about that, but okay.
okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, so the questions we have now is, what's your recommendations about applying to colleges during the pandemic?
Well, you don't have much of a choice. It is a pandemic. It's not going away too soon, but I'd say look at it in the positive light. I see a lot of positive things coming out of the pandemic. Most are negative, but there are a few positive things. So as I mentioned, opportunities are a lot more readily available to you now. They're one Zoom link away rather than being spread out across the world. People are more connected now, and the world is pretty much in a crisis right now. So there are so many problems that need to be solved. Go out there and solve those problems. Go out there and try to make a difference in the ways that you can. Obviously, if you are doing something, make sure it's not too general. Like, I'm just gonna make like a mask company or a alcohol dispenser or something. Try to make it like related to the specific field that you're interested in and how COVID has impacted that, because there are so many nuanced kind of relations. So just use the fact that the world is, there are lots of problems that need to be solved right now. And I think in that regard, it's a good way to prove that you're a great citizen of the world.
And like even if you're applying to college under these disadvantaged circumstances, like other people are also applying under the same circumstances. So you have to keep in mind that you're in the same boat as them, and whatever you do to advance your application, you have to try to be unique, like Fresh said, and try to link it to your personal interests rather than just doing something that everybody else would do. So really trying to find out those hidden things, those hidden aspects of, maybe it could be helping solve the COVID pandemic, but in a more innovative way, in a way that your personal interests are linked up, and that's going to be really important.
And then another question we have is, should the current grade 12 students, 1, take a gap year, 2, take an online course, or 3, go to a Thai university for 1 year? Which choice would you make?
Don't go to the Thai university for 1 year. Well, there's a lot of options, I think. It depends on you. Like, if you already think you have sufficient skill sets to do an internship, like Schwinn, who's really good at programming, then by all means go for it. But if you still feel like you want to develop your skills, you feel like you haven't really figured out your self-identity yet, then taking online courses would be the option. Or you can even, take online courses for the first half of the year, then, go do an intern. But ultimately, I do not feel like you should go to a Thai university for the sake of filling the gap of the education gap that you will lack because there's the pandemic. Since you'll eventually learn the same things in freshman year anyways. So why not just take other online courses or do things that you really think are important and are actually more important?
I think if you're going to do a gap year, I think it's a time of exploration, whether it be in computer vision or in anything. I think if you're going to take a gap year, you should really seek out to do something new, something that you've never done before. And as someone who has done online learning in university for almost half a semester already, I don't recommend it at all. I would have taken a gap year if Berkeley allowed me to. So during your gap year, make sure you're productive and you stay in shape and ready to study next year. But also do something new and productive and relax.
Yeah, just like to add on that during your gap year, I guess it's more beneficial to do something that actually helps you in your studies. Like what I'm doing now as an AI research intern, right? Like they make me read through textbooks on like machine learning and statistical learning, stuff like that actually allows me to get a head start in school next year even. So I guess, weigh your options like that too. Make that one of your considerations when you're taking a gap year. Yeah.
Are there any last few questions you would like to ask?
Yes, I just want to know like the exact parts of a college application. So far, I know that there's an interview and an essay. Are there any other parts or like steps you need to take for the
So
college
there's a
application?
standardized testing. Oh, sorry. Do you want to continue? Okay. There's the standardized testing. There's the grades, recommendation. I think you mentioned that. Recommendation, by the way. So there's teacher recommendation, counselor recommendation, which is just the counselor at your school, and you can also submit an optional letter of recommendation as well. There's a college essay, the Common App. There's a supplemental essay. There is the additional information section in the Common App that you can use as well if you'd like to. There's also the art supplement, as we mentioned. Did I mention the activity section? Yeah, the activity section, the award section, which is where you can list some awards as well, and your academic transcript as well. So that's, I think I probably mentioned that. Sorry, there's a lot. So,
like the whole thing, the platform in which you apply to colleges is called the Common App. So if you didn't get to write all that, you can just Google App, Common App, like what are the components of the Common App, or you can even sign up and to see which part you have to fill out. Yeah.
I think Bom took an interesting approach to writing the essays. I think he had like one engineering essay and then he just adapted it for different colleges, because in the end they're asking the same questions, but then they just asking it in different ways. So I think it's good to have like one central essay that you can adapt from, so that it makes it easier on the process.
So I had like a 100-word version, 200-word version, 300-word version, 500-word version, but they're basically all the same essays. You just start with the big essay and then you cut down to like.
So to wrap this panel up today, do we have any more questions? Okay, Alice, last question.
Okay, so in terms of teacher letters of recommendation and stuff, would you kind of prioritize asking a teacher who kind of has a connection to what your intended major would be, but maybe you don't have such a good personal connection with them, or maybe, for example, a teacher that doesn't really teach a subject that relates to what you kind of apply for in university, but you have like a really, really good personal connection with them?
I think you should have a bit of diversity in your teacher recommendation. If you're going into STEM, at least you must have one STEM-oriented teacher and one who is like more of like the social side, whether it be an English teacher or psychology teacher or anything. I think it's good to show that you're not only like STEM-oriented, but you can also do other things.
yeah, I would say ultimately go for teachers that you think know you best and love you. Like if this teacher really likes me, we all have those feelings, right? Like this teacher likes me, then I think that's a good thing. But try to prioritize both if you can. So do have a recommendation that reflects your academic pathway as well. I think that's always a solid way to go, and you can't really go wrong with that unless the teacher really doesn't like you, which I doubt it.
I would say that like just go for the teacher that knows would write you a good letter of recommendation. But like the other important thing is that that they're a good writer, because sometimes teachers really like you but they're pretty bad at writing and they end up writing a pretty bad letter of recommendation. Another tip I would give would be to choose a teacher that you can kind of control what he or she puts in the letter of recommendation. I mean, like you could list out your accomplishments and like the things that like you would like to see them hopefully include in the letter of recommendation and give it to them. So in that way, you're kind of making sure that they're hitting the points you want them to hit.
I actually did that for one of the teachers. Yes, I did, because he asked me for it. And so I also gave this exact same list to another teacher, and he never looked at it. He never even opened the document. So I think it's also important that you choose a teacher who actually cares about you and actually cares about where you get into college. So choose someone that gives like a damn about you.
So what Peak and Titan said is actually extremely important. People overlook this a lot. So when you ask a teacher to write a recommendation letter, I don't know if this is the same for other schools, but at RS we have like a form we have to send to the teacher, and the form actually asks you a bunch of questions so that the teacher can write the letter of recommendation alongside the form, since they might not remember everything about you. And you have to be sure to write like all the projects you've done and like the activities you've engaged in this form, because if you write your Common App, it's basically your word, and they have no validation for it. But the teachers kind of serve as a validation for your written application on the Common App. So like there are some things that might sound unrealistic for a high school student to do, and colleges sometimes don't believe that. But if you have your teachers as a source of validation, then that's going to really help colleges believe what you wrote, and it's going to increase your chances of admission.
So now, do you guys have any other general advice that we would like to give to our audience? Or that would be a wrap for today? Okay, so our panel discussion has come to a conclusion, but we don't go anywhere just yet because there will be a breakout session where you will get to meet our panelists up close, and there will also be great prizes for audience participation. So as editor-in-chief of the union, I would like to express my deepest gratitude towards our panelists, our students and parents in the audience today, and the union staff. So the union is Thailand's first interscholastic student-run newspaper with chapters at RIS, NIS, and BPS, and we hope to have one in ICS and also KMIDS soon. And we're looking to expand to all other international schools. So if you're interested, please sign up at the union table next to our registration desk. So I would really like to thank our panelists, P. Bom, P. Titan, P. Schwinn, P. Peak, P. Sai, and P. Fresh for giving up your rare Sunday break. Please give them a round of applause. And we are all extremely lucky to hear from you for today. So we have prepared some small gifts that we'd like to give you guys. So we hope you guys will like it. So next, I would like to thank our sponsors. Okay, let's take a photo first.
Mine is so. Tell me it was going to be on a big screen so I could take a picture. This is art. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
So most importantly, I would like to thank our sponsors, the Four Wings Hotel, who sponsored our venue today, MS Group, and the Omega Prep for their kindness and generosity in sponsoring our event today. So please give them a big round of applause and find out more about their great products and services they offer through our leaflet and the gifts that we provided for you today. And to thank our audience for coming, Omega Prep has also prepared some prizes for you guys. So in addition to the full day SAT mock test that all our participants will be given for free, and the coupon looks like this, it's included in your packet. Omega Prep will also be awarding 7 full-length SAT courses to audience members who actively participate during the breakout session. And our 6 panelists and the union will be choosing each one of the winners. So our panelists will, during the breakout session, each of one of us will be having this, which is a coupon for the SAT course. And whoever they feel like has done participation or they really feel like they are engaged, then they'll be handing this out, and you guys will be receiving a free SAT course from Omega Prep. And one of the prizes will be given out by the union. In addition to that, Omega Prep will also be giving out 7 personalized profile building workshops with former alumni interviewers of Cornell and Princeton. So this is a really great opportunity. So please scan the QR code on your coupons. The coupon is also included in the packet. It's this one. And the one that writes application strategy workshop. So if you would like to have a chance to win one of these prizes, please scan the QR code. And winners will be notified through email within 1 week. So then our panelists will be around to answer any of your questions for another around 30 minutes. So please take advantage of this great opportunity during the breakout session. And each panelist will be in, guys, do you want to go down to your corners of your room so that like people can walk around to see you guys during the breakout? Okay, wait, guys. Can we take a photo first with our staff, and then we can go for the breakout? Is we Titan P bomb? So after we take a photo, our panelists will be in the different corners of the room, and then you can walk around to whoever you want to talk to if you're interested in Stanford, Harvard, Princeton, Rhode Island, RISD, or any other colleges, or interested in their passions. ซูชิเดี๋ยววิวจะพาไปใช่ป่ะเดี๋ยวเอาให้คนพาไป